What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good? What's up? To want the inner part of his ass crack. Blue about me not being his dad. After reading the book, she was like, "What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good, people? What's up? What's up? What's up? What is good, people? What's up? It's me, El Teddy 27, and I am back for yet another review. This, ladies and gentlemen, will be our review for Interview with the Vampire. This is season 1. It is episode 4. It is entitled "The Ruthless Pursuit of Blood." With all a child's demanding. It's getting so good, y'all. Listen. Oh my God. We're really starting to get down into the nitty gritty, down into the good stuff. Listen, if you read the novels, you know the introduction of Claudia into the story. She is, if you thought Lestat was a hunter, if you thought Lestat was that ferocious vampire that is Claudia. Ooh. Shout out to one of my subscribers, Tanya LaFleur, and her daughter with Lazy Boy Snacks. Y'all go follow them on Instagram and all social medias. Lazy Boy Snacks. Got this from them. Some juice infused with nature's goodness. Mm, so good. Anyway, so let's get right down to it. So we start off present day. Daniel's on the phone with his boss trying to explain where he at, where he been, why he ain't back, in the United States and so forth. Rashid comes in. Now, you remember Rashid is the guy who works for Louis. He's Louis's, I guess, personal assistant or whatnot, butler, personal assistant, confidant, whatever you want to call it. He's the guy who does all of the work for Louis. So he tells Daniel, listen, we know you were supposed to have this medical procedure, and we already talked to your doctor. They're going to come, they're going to do it here. Everything's already taken care of. You ain't even got to worry about it. We got all of that situated. You can go ahead and get off that good phone now. We got all this handled. So Rashid takes him to go look at what he calls precious archives. And these are books and different things that were not available to him in the original interview. So Louis is going to be resting all day. He arranges for Daniel to go and look at all of these, at all of this stuff. We'll just call it stuff. And these archives of books and readings. In these precious archives, he finds Claudia's diaries. And then we're taken back to the early 1900s. Now, this episode is markedly different than the previous ones. Why? Because in episodes 1 through 3, 1, 2, and 3, we have the story being told by Louis. Louis the narrator. Whenever we go back in time, Louis narrating. It has a male and masculine perspective to it. It does come off dark. Even the times when um, he's talking about his love for Lestat, it still comes off as dark. It still comes off as this husky, masculine, grown up man thing. And I think that's intentional because we know that Louis has struggled with his sexuality. So he does try to come off extra masculine. But now the whole narration has changed. Now Claudia is the narrator. And there's this jovial, childlike, fanciful narration to the story. Now it's not as, oh, it's light. It is whimsical almost. To me, it changes the whole perspective of these three vampires because now they look more humane. They look more human. And I love this whole flipping of everything for us. Oh, it was a great episode for me. Listen, so Louis takes the burned up Claudia. You remember he rescued her from the burning building, takes her home. She's all burnt up and stuff like that. And Claudia's saying, listen, I thought I died. She thought she was in heaven. She was waiting to see her mama. She thought the pain was going to go away, and the pain kept getting worse. And she called Louis the black angel and called Lestat the white angel. And she kept remarking about them being angels. And her burn wounds just started getting progressively worse. And too much really for her to bear any longer. She was going to die. And so Louis begs Lestat, listen, I need you to turn her. You can't let her die. And that was Louis trying to find some way to get some good out of what he caused. He knew he caused the race riot. Well, I shouldn't say him solely, but his action in killing the alderman was the catalyst that got the fire started and caused all of this um, um, grief and destruction and death and carnage for his own people. And so this was him trying to appease himself and trying to save something, save someone. And he does that with Claudia. Claudia is him trying to hold on to or have some justification as to something good coming out of this bad situation. So Lestat acquiesces. He turns her. Baby, she tried to drink that whole mess. She tried to drain Lestat's blood. Once she tasted it and realized it was good, baby, she tried to drain him. And he tried to push her off and so forth. And she turns, and then they start on this training process. She has to learn. She was 14 years old when this happened. So she's a child. So, a regular 14-year-old has so much to learn about how to navigate life and grow up and start becoming an adult. And that's elevated exponentially for Claudia because now she's a vampire. Now she has to relearn everything as a vampire. And she's a teenager. And teenagers' minds are all over the goddamn place. So we also find out since Lestat made Louis and Claudia, he can't read their minds, but they can read each other's minds. So they can talk to each other mentally, or whereas Lestat can't hear what they're saying. And I like that. I like that nuance there. Um, she calls Les Uncle Les, and she calls Louis Daddy Lou. Because Louis is, for all intents, he saved her. He's her daddy at this point, her dad. So they take Claudia out for her first feed and her first killing. And at first, she goes up to this drunk man that was sitting on the fountain, and she was like, I don't know if I can do this. But then she smells some in the air, and she eventually goes after this cop and ends up killing this cop. And right before the cop dies, he says, "You ain't a girl. You're the devil. You're the devil." And she goes in for the kill and drains his blood, feeds off of him. They take him home. They put him in an incinerator to kill him. She was like, "Okay, I'm still hungry. I need some more food." And they were like, and Louis was like, "Wait a minute, you just ate somebody twice your size. You shouldn't still be hungry." And they start, and Lestat has to tell him, "Listen, she's a teenager. Teenagers have high metabolism, and now she's going to eternally have a high metabolism, which is not good because that means you can feed and feed and feed and still not feel, satisfied or engorged. That's not good for a vampire. Not good because now you got a whole bloodthirsty feeding machine. Also, teenagers are filled with what? Energy, energy, and a bunch of energy. So you're talking about a feeding machine filled with energy. Bad combination. Bad combination. And so, and then we start to see, time progressing, but she has all of the characteristics of a teenager: rambunctious, you know, at times playful, at times, you know, she's uh, disrespectful. At times, because that's what teenagers do. They have good, bad, and everything in between, and she's all of that, damn near on steroids. So she's running through the house and you hear them yelling. And it looks, and because, like I said, it's being narrated by Claudia, it gives this air of just a regular, happy family. Just a regular family. I mean, outside of the fact that they're all vampires. But just her narrating, we got to see this humanity in Lestat and Louis and Claudia. There was this happiness during this time, even with them having to yell at her and say, "Oh no, don't do that! Stop running! Stop doing this! Don't do that! Don't do this!" There was this familial feeling, and you could tell they loved it. The three of them loved it, and so, but she was the typical child. Lestat doesn't want, kind of gives off that he doesn't really want to have a child. Louis is enamored with the fact that he has a child. He loves that. Louis, because he hasn't been a vampire that long, still has that longing for family. Still has that, that vested interest in knowing that, okay, this is my daughter. This is my family now. And he embraced and loved all of that. While Lestat was kind of like, "Girl, I'm just doing this just because I love you, but child, I ain't here for all of that." So then, because Claudia had been sleeping in the casket with Louis, and so they go out and get her own casket. They end up feeding on the funeral director, and stuff like that. So that was as much as a vampire feeding on someone could be cute, it was a cute scene. I loved her getting in that casket. I was like, oh my god, it's so soft. And then the funeral director was like, wait a minute, something ain't right here. Did you just see Louis go close the curtain? Yeah, it's about to go down. So then Claudia has her own casket, and so it's in the room with them. And so one night, because she writes every night. She writes in these diaries, and that's what Daniel's reading. I mean, she chronicles everything about her life in this diary. She's gonna be perpetually in this 14-year-old body, not 14-year-olds in the mind, but 14-year-old body. And during this time period, you see her doing what teenage girls do. They like to write. They like to chronicle their feelings and emotions, and she was absolutely doing that. I mean, this is the early 1900s. You don't have television yet. You don't have, I think, motion pictures by the time where we are in the story had been invented, but um, journaling and writing and reading, that was your entertainment, for someone of her age. So she chronicles everything. So one night, like I said, all three caskets were in the same room, and she catches them. She catches Lestat getting into Louis' bed, and she finds out that they're in a whole ass relationship, and stuff like that. So Louis and Claudia go for this boat ride, just the two of them, and she asks him why Uncle Les always goes out by himself, and why does he have all these secrets? And Louis said, "Listen, he's much older than us. He's a little different. Old people don't like always telling you everything." And he says he also leaves sometime because she asks him about what it's like to be in a relationship with, and be in love with a man. What's love like between two men? And he was like, it's just like all love, just like love between a man and a woman. So she asks him, has he always like girls? He was like, well, Lestat still likes girls from time to time. I ain't with that party, baby. I'm strictly dickly over here, baby. I like it up the booty shoot, out the booty shoot, up the booty shoot. Y'all know I take any opportunity I can to break out into that song. But he let her know, listen, I don't deal with the cooter no more. Tried it, it wasn't really my thing. I stick with dicks and booty holes and dicks. So is but he does go into this whole thing about, listen, I know you got to go out there and kill people and feed, but be careful, be selective. Don't just go out there and be reckless. So he's trying to teach her not to be reckless and not to just be this thoughtless hunter and killer, this mercenary vampire out there just killing any and everything. He tries to tell her, listen, be careful in your kills, be selective. Don't just go out there. It's a teenager in one ear, out the other. She ain't really listening. Child. He tells her about when he made mistakes and kills, and about how that led to the whole fire that led to him finding her. Which, if you're a teenager listening to a teenager, only hears the last part of that, which is the good part, which is him finding her and everything. But it's a teenager in one ear and out the other. They don't listen to reason. With this, we flip back to present day. So Daniel is in the house, and like I said, Louis is resting, and Rashid, he hears Rashid praying. He goes into the other room and sees Rashid doing his prayers on his he has his prayer carpet or whatnot, and we find out that Rashid is Muslim. So he said, "I thought Louis was your god." He was like, "I wonder if Allah, how Allah feels about vampires and so forth." And he was kind of poking at Rashid, but you could tell he realizes now there's much more to Rashid than we know and meets the eye. I immediately became intrigued this scene with Rashid. So there's something very interesting. I really want to know if they're going to give us the backstory of Rashid. But Daniel takes notes on Rashid, and then we see Daniel keeps going through the diaries. He picks up a new diary, and we see Claudia. We're back in time, and Claudia's narrating again, telling us about this new diary that she's got. She's talking to the new diary, and now she has her own room where she can have some privacy, because now she's going from just being, and we see she's having birthdays and things. So years are passing, and it gets to the point where she turns 18. All right, so keep that in mind. She turned 18, so now she's grown, but still has a 14-year-old body. So I'm just reading. It's more of the years passing by. This happy period in their existence. They're just so happy. Claudia's narrating. Like I said, there's this jovial, whimsical, fanciful, you know, aura about the story now that there wasn't before. So she was like, "Oh, I'm here with my daddy, Lou." And so Louis comes over, and they were like, "You got a child?" And Dottie was like, "Yes, I adopted her from off Liberty Street." And me and because she said, "I'm here with my daddy, Lou, and my uncle Les." And so they immediately knew who she was talking about. So when Louis comes over there, Grace is like, "Wait a minute, you got a daughter?" And they were like, he was like, "Yes, I adopted her. She was a orphan on Liberty Street, and I adopted her." And Grace wasn't here for it. Grace was like, "You sure you and Les, you and your white devil," I think she called him a white devil, whatever she called him, the right ones to be raising her? Baby, we've seen a complete 180 from Grace. Grace started off as the advocate for Louis. Grace started off as the confidant, the one that he could go to, that understood and was, had no problem with him, his sexuality and everything. Baby, she's done a complete 180. Ever since that situation where he busted in the house and knocked the door open, she don't want no more parts of him. No parts of him. And she is not here for him and Lestat. She don't want no parts of none of what they got going on. She don't even want him there no more. They talk about him not getting invited to stuff and how he'll never be around. She just come right out. She said, "Listen, y'all don't even need to come to the funeral. Don't even worry about coming tomorrow. We good over here." He was like, "Well, I don't know if I was gonna be able to come anyway." She was like, "Can we get this good house? Because all this talk, we need a house. You don't have no need for it. You and your little boo thing over there pumping each other up the booty shoot, the booty shoot. Yeah, y'all pumping each other up the booty shoot all day and night. Y'all can stay on over there. Y'all don't have no need. Y'all, you got a lot of money. You don't have no need for this house. You might as well get. We can't pay you what it's worth. Go ahead and give us. You don't need the money. Go ahead and give us this house." And he tried to, flex a little bit, but then he was like, "You know what? Fine, you got it. I dropped the papers." Because Lestat came over and said, "Well, Grace is ready to go home. Not Grace. Claudia is ready to go home." And Louis was like, "You know what? I'll drop the papers. You're right. I ain't got no need for this. You can have it, honey." And I think that's the moment there where he completely became disconnected from his family. He knew right then and there. That's where, Claudia remarked that everything changed from the household. It first changed from that phone call. And it first changed when Louis, at this point, completely understands, yeah, I can't do this family thing no more. So at this point, there's this complete detachment. You can see that's about to happen with him and the family. And so then Louis and Lestat go home, and they try to go back to life as normal. But we notice they have two different ways and styles in which they want to raise Claudia. Louis wants to teach her how to do the right thing, go about it the right way. Don't be this vicious, uncontrollable hunter. Lestat is like, "Baby, go for blood every time. We ain't got to be cute about it. We got forever to live. Live it up, honey." And so Lestat takes Claudia out on to teach her how to drive. So I find it interesting. We saw Louis take Claudia out, and they went out for a boat ride where Louis is, and this is all metaphoric. They're on this water. The water's very calm. It's at night. It's peaceful. Nothing, it's just very peaceful, tranquil, and calm. Louis is steering the boat. He's doing all the work and steering the boat. And if you remember, going back to when they were in this boat, remember how I told you he was telling her all of these good things to do? And what did I say it was doing? Going in one ear and out of the other. She wasn't really paying because she wasn't here for that. She don't want to listen to all of that. She wasn't. That's not what she wants to do. She's a teenager. But couple that with now we see Lestat take Claudia out. He takes her out in the car. He's teaching her how to drive. She's driving. He's not. He's teaching her through having her go through this. He's not steering the ship. He's just telling her what to do and letting her ride in this whole machine that could be dangerous. Because there's even a time where he says, "Wait a minute, You going too fast, slow down a little bit. We don't want to crash. She was like, but we can live forever. He was like, yeah, but it might take you a few months to get over that injury. Just, I'm letting you take these keys and you can go. And she's here for it because this is what she wants. She doesn't want that slow, peaceful, tranquil. Well, I don't even get to steer this. You get to steer it, and now we got to go on this slow boat ride. She wants the car where there's speed. She wants to be in control. She wants to be let loose and let go. And so then they stop. Because remember and I forgot to remark that when Louis took her on the boat ride, at one point, she asked him he tells her about how Lestat, some of his killings are just way too brutal and ruthless. And, I ain't really here for that. And then he reaches in the water, he pulls out a fish and starts feeding off the fish. And Claudia was looking at him like, that can't taste too good. He was like, well, I make it taste good. Basically, he said, I know it don't taste good, but I'm just going to fake the phone. But now, and this couple that with what we have going on when Lestat takes her out. Lestat takes her in this car ride and they stop and they go on what you call Lover's Lane, or this spot where, young people go and make out and fuck in cars. Baby, he tells her, you take that car, I'll take this car. And she said, let me just give you a warning. They're going to be young, which means they're going to be fighters. They can fight you off. So you're going to have to be as ferocious as you can. He tells her. He comes right out and tells her, yep, you're going to have to be ferocious. Hunt them down. Go as, hard as you can. And this is what she's been waiting for. She goes out and immediately just starts killing. And they have the killing, and the little girl, she started feeding on the man. The lady gets away, and the stat starts feeding on the lady because the lady's looking for help. So I just wanted to show you those two parallels, the metaphors here, the symbolism here, the allegories here, the boat ride with Louis, the car ride with Lestat. That's why I say they have two totally different ways, mechanisms, and manners in which they want to raise Claudia. And Claudia at one point even says, I love my Uncle Louis today. I mean, Daddy Lou. She said, I love Daddy Lou. Daddy Lou is my favorite. But she said, I ain't gonna lie, Uncle Les, that's where I have fun. And you see that from teenagers. They love their parents. They love their parents to death. But they love that uncle or aunt that's gonna let them go out there and do whatever they want to do. You always got. Sometimes I'm that uncle that'll let my nieces and nephews. Yo, go ahead, do what you want to do now. Go ahead. I don't care. Your daddy won't let you do that. Your mom won't let you do. Go ahead. That's what a good uncle and aunt does. That don't mean they love their parents less, but they like every now and again to be able to have these privileges that an uncle and aunt affords them. Anyway, so y'all let me know what y'all think about that whole duality there. So we then see Claudia at home. And so I told y'all Claudia's been aging. She's physically she still looks 14. Mentally, she's 18 going on 19. So she's like, listen, I'm sick and tired of being treated. I hate having to wake up every day to this flat chest. My curves and my body ain't coming yet. Maybe I need to go out and start acting like a real, like her mental was 18, 19, but her body was still 14. So she wants to go out on the town like a young adult at this point. So they let her go. Go ahead. She gets all dressed up. She reminded me, think of the clothing that you see of a young Zora Neale Hurston and all of the Harlem Renaissance ladies back in the day. That's what she was dressed like. And she goes out and immediately she comes in contact with these four girls across the street, these four white girls, and they're talking, and she can read their minds and hear them, and they're talking about how she must have the little girl must have got into her mom's uh, clothing, and then they even call her a darky. And at this point, she fangs out, ready to go and kill them, and this horse just stops in front of her, and the horse is like, the horse, was going through its thing, and it scares her, and she immediately turns around to the flowers because she remarked that the flowers would bring her back into like, okay, fangs down, and the flowers brought her back. So when she turns back around, there's this young black man that talks to her. His name is Charlie. She's immediately enamored with him. She becomes infatuated with Charlie, and Charlie, makes sure she's okay and offers to take her home. And on the way home, he says, "Yeah, I pass by that house all the time. I never knew it was a black family there." And so they talk, and the whole time he's talking, she is infatuated, baby. She with everything he did, it's young love, it's puppy love. And like my uncle used to always say, you may call it puppy love, but it's still love to the puppy. My uncle used to say that all the time. So, but anyway, but she is falling for this Charlie. He was a little cute brown skin little something, you know what I'm saying? A little cutie or whatnot. Baby, she wanted that meat. That's what she really wanted. She was in lust. She thought she was in love. And this, teenage thing, hormones, young enough. Baby, your hormones are going. They look good. She talked about how his veins went all the way down his arms. She wanted to know what it felt like, how close and tight he held you when he danced with you. She wanted to know how his tongue tasted. Baby, she was in lust. She was here for the lust. And then she wanted the meat. She wanted the meat. So that meat was calling her, child. If she could have sucked his blood out that meat, honey, she probably would have. Anyway, so every night now, because he told her I take that route, every day to take Mr. Sloan home. And so every now nightly she's going up and on the balcony, acting like she reading a book, waiting for him, looking down, talking about something. If he look up at me, that means he like me. If he don't look up at me, he don't like me. So he behind by and he look up at her and just like a little schoolgirl who just found her first love. Baby, she is all over herself, honey. Running downstairs. You hear Louis understand. Stop running. Baby, she all over herself. He done threw her some flowers, looked up at her, threw her some flowers. Baby, she didn't even know what to do with herself, child. She didn't even know what to do. And so in this whole giddy state that she's in, I mean, she is giddy. Um, Louis reads her mind and he says, "Who's Charlie?" And baby, she do not want no parts of her daddy. In this part, she immediately cut it off and cut him off from being able to read her mind. And you hear him tell her, "I'm your daddy. Let me hear. Let me hear." Baby, she said, "This is for me." So Claudia and Charlie, we see them. They go out on a date. They go out on this date. They go get some ice cream, and she don't really like ice cream. He talks to her. So eventually, she was like, I like this date. He was like, well, this isn't a date. You young. And she was like, wait a minute. You've been giving me these flowers and giving me these little. This is the date. She was like, listen, I know I look young, but my family, that's just how we are. We age well. The older we get, we look young. And he was like, so she tells him this story of one of the buildings in the neighborhood that only somebody who's been around that amount of time would know. He was like, you had to be a baby when that happened to that store. She was like, I wasn't a baby. I'm telling you, I ain't young. And so I guess that's all he needed. And next thing we know, they in the car, um, making out. She grinded on him. He kissing her, and you could tell he wanna fuck. I mean, she wants to fuck. And he was like, wait, hold on. Let's just wait. Let me just kiss you a little while longer. He's trying to take it slow. Baby mama is in heat, honey. I told you she wanted that meat, honey. Baby, it started to get good to her. So she started licking on his neck. And you know how when you make out with somebody, if you at that age, all you do is give hickeys. You give your girlfriend a hickey, your girlfriend give the boyfriend a hickey. Then you give it. So she goes on his neck like she's giving him a hickey, which is normal for a kid. And so I'm sure at a certain point he felt her puncture him, and but they was in the moment. It was the dick done got hard. It was the heat of the moment, baby. He's here for all of it, and so she's feeding on him, but she can't control herself. She can't. She's so in lust. She can't control herself, and She drinks all of his blood. She drains him, and you see his face go gray. And she realizes that she messed up. She messed up. So she takes him home. She takes him home, and she's telling the stat, listen, help him. You gotta turn him. But stat was like, girl, you did this, girl. It's nothing I can do. He was very cold and callous. He was just like, girl. Louis is over here right there with her, emoting, understanding, feeling her, and because he's still not that long disconnected from his family and what his humanity. Look, Lestat is like, baby, it's nothing I can do. He's dead. You drained him. You killed him. He dead. It's nothing I can do. Get over it, baby. Lestat says, and clean up after yourself. And he makes her take him out to the incinerator and burn him. She tries to turn her head, and he comes out and makes her watch the body get burned. He said, yeah, look at it, because he said this is why we don't get close to mortals. They always end up dead. Baby, it was too much for him. She talked about how she heard his bones crack and his face turned to soup, and it was very vivid imagery in her writing. It was very, very vivid imagery with her writing. Great writing here, great writing, great narration, and you began to emote with her because everybody could. I mean, you felt that love and infatuation that she had for Charlie, and then one can only think about how horrific it must have been to watch him burn to death. And then you got Lestat right there, just like, girl, yep, you did it. Get over it. Yep, he gone. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. And he made her sit there and watch it, honey. And we flip back to present day, and so Louis and Daniel, Louis done came in, And Louis and Daniel start talking about this writing. Louis like, it's vivid imagery, it's a great writing. And they were like, yeah, this is good writing. Good writing. And Daniel asked Louis, well, where were these diaries in 1973? And so Louis was like, at first he tried to lie, like, oh yeah, I had to go find them. One was here, one was there. Daniel was like, girl, girl, I know you had these. And trust me. He was like, listen, he Louis chops it up to listen. These things were much too personal. He tells him, listen, how would you feel if, because you have daughters, what if you could read your daughter's diaries and learn all of the good and bad that your daughters thought about you and how you raised them and what you did and things like that? It becomes very personal. You just don't want to invite everybody to being able to see that. He was like, hell, I met you at the gay bar, at the punk bar. So, girl, you weren't getting all that from me. You was getting only what I gave you. And it shows the change in both of them over 50 years. Louis realizes Daniel is not the same Daniel he was back in 1973. Daniel realizes that Louis isn't the same Louis that he was back in 1973. So it's like this acknowledgement or acceptance of each other and how both of them have changed over the course of this 49 years. So, but they talk about this writing and they talked about her words and they talk about Claudia's relationship with Louis and Lestat, and then so Louis asks Daniel, where are you? He's like, I'm like 1923 ish, when she went on a date with Lestat. I mean, not Lestat, with Charlie. And so Louis says, yeah, that started the darkest period in our time, the darkest days of our times together, and because we then skip back to what would be 1923, and we hear she's grieving. She's grieving. She's manic. She's emotional. She's everything a young adult and a teenager are when things like this happen. Just emotions all over the place. Louis and Lestat is over here arguing. They fighting it out. They getting it down. They are arguing because Lestat was very cold and callous, like I told y'all. And Louis was like, "You don't treat her like that. You don't have to do that to her." And Lestat was, yes, she need to learn. And so they're arguing about how best to deal with Claudia and what she's going through. Claudia's over there, just like I said, she's damn near manic at this point, and she's acting out. She starts acting out. She's very emotional. She's doing everything that someone her age that was human or mortal would do, but it's now heightened exponentially. Um, she talks about she's going around. She's crying. As she goes to try to hurt herself. And so before she goes to try to hurt herself, which is what young people do when they're emotional, like they'll try to do things to hurt themselves because they feel like they're the blame for they may be at fault for something. They're trying to get get rid of the pain with other pain. Anyway, um, she says the first man I killed called me the devil. The last man I killed, the last boy I killed called me an angel. Remember, the first one was a police officer. She ain't like him. She knew he was a racist ass police officer. She knew he was gonna be bigoted to her, so he hated her. He called her the devil. But Charlie, she loved Charlie, and Charlie called her an angel right before she goes and kills him. Right. But what I remarked here is, what I wrote down is, whether or not it's a devil or an angel, both of them are killers. Both the devil ends up being a killer, and the angel ends up being a killer as well. So once again, we got this duality going on. Even if you think of it like you think of Louis and Lestat, Lestat could be a devil, Louis could be an angel, but at the end of the day, they're both vampires. They're both killers. Oh, beautiful allegories and symbolism, man. Beautiful shit here. And so we then see her open the little thing when the sunlight comes in. She takes it and she allows it to burn her. So she's harming herself because she's emotional. And when you got a young woman that's emotional over love, maybe a woman scorned will list whole empires and civilizations have been burned to the ground because of a woman scorned. And maybe that's what we got here. And she a vampire. We're gonna see where it goes from here, but it goes off from there. Listen. Now, Louis already told us this is the darkest period in our this is the darkest time period that we got. Maybe it's about to go down next episode. I'm so excited to see what happens. I hope they keep it in Claudia's voice. I hope they keep her as the narrator. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Do y'all like it with Claudia being the narrator now, or would you rather go back to Louis? I don't know, but I like both of them. But I like this different feel. I'm really curious to see what she's about to do and how they're about to write this for her. So that's all I got. Listen, y'all let me know what y'all think, what y'all saw. Let's get in the comment section and argue about what we saw. Let's do all of the things that we do. Can't wait to see y'all in the comment section. That's all I got for y'all. Until next time, thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely. Y'all out.